Hey, I see you, the ambitious, driven woman who seems like she's got it all figured out, but inside, stress, anxiety, and overthinking are taking over. All those big goals and that never ending to do list keep you busy, but your mind, it never stops long enough for you to actually enjoy your life. That's why I created Ambitious Overthinkers Anonymous, AOA. It's a community for high achieving women who are ready to ditch stress and self doubt for confidence and peace of mind. Inside AOA, you'll find live lessons and coaching to help you take action without second guessing. And guess what? They're all recorded, so you can watch them once, you can watch them at your own convenience, or you can watch them over and over again. You'll find an interactive chat and forum for real-time support from other women who get it and from me. And you'll have workshops, book studies, retreats, and all kinds of fun things coming in the future to help you connect and shift your mindset so you can stop that spiral of overthinking. Right now, you can lock in 3 months of AOA for just $150, but this special isn't going to last forever. So go to megandevito.com/work with me and click Ambitious Overthinkers Anonymous and join me today. I'll see you inside. Hey there, welcome to the More Than Anxiety podcast. I'm Megan DeVito, and I help ambitious women break out of the anxiety spiral so they can stop overthinking and actually enjoy life. This podcast is all about real talk, simple shifts, and light bulb moments that'll change the way you think, feel, and show up for yourself and everybody else in your life too. You'll get straight up truth, actionable steps, and the inspiration to finally break free from the stress and second guessing. Let's get to it. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 134 of More Than Anxiety. I'm so excited to be able to introduce you to Pamela King today. She's going to talk to you all about what it was like for her to shift her career, how she managed all those big emotions that come up, and what she does now that can help you feel solid in whatever your career is, and to help you manage the big feelings of changing careers if that's on your plate, whether you choose it or not. And I know I've talked about this a lot recently, but it's because you all keep bringing it to me on those boundaries and balance audits and in our coaching together. So let's keep talking about what it feels like to want to make changes. So Pamela, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to get to talk with your audience. I've enjoyed our little behind the scenes conversation, so I'm thrilled to get to share with everyone.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about what you do and your story.
Yeah, so I call myself a small business optimizer. I am not a coach. I come on for short-term contracts and I help small businesses with the operation side of things. So setting up systems, templates, SOPs, building out the framework so that way they can really best leverage a virtual assistant, an online business manager, freelancers, any other staff. So people work with me in short-term targeted contracts for just a couple months, the same way you'd work with an architect to build out that framework. So then things are really solid, and that way you can successfully delegate, actually free up your time so you can stay in your zone of genius. But originally I taught high school history for 15 years.
Yeah.
And ended up helping a friend. She was a realtor, and her business coach told her it was time to start bringing on an assistant, hosting client appreciation events, but she was overwhelmed. It was all she could do at that time to keep her head above water. I didn't think anything of it. I just thought I was helping out a girlfriend. So I agreed to I'm like, have me come on for the summer. Let me build these things out for you. And that way you can see what life's like when you really have help. So we did that for 10 weeks. At the end of the summer, I went back to the classroom, and she was able to really successfully slot somebody in because of the framework I built. So she passed my name along, and at a certain point, I realized, hey, this is a business. So almost 4 years ago now, I stepped out of the classroom and fully into entrepreneurship, which, as you mentioned, is a very scary, emotional transition, but it's been wonderful, and I wouldn't do it anything differently now.
I think we have so much in common in the things that we're looking at here. Pamela and I have talked, and so we were both like former high school teachers. Both of us taught history, and I think that there's this thought a lot of times especially people who are in education, and we get into this. It's almost like this weird
club where it's like, oh, you're a teacher and like you're supposed to be this forever. And maybe this isn't specific to education, but that's been my experience leaving the classroom, and
Yeah.
where we've kind of been pigeonholed to like, oh, it's because you love what you do. And there's all these thoughts and feelings and emotions that come up. And sometimes we take that um, and think like, but I'm a teacher. What else can I do? But I
Oh,
love that you called yourself an architect. Tell me more.
well, thanks. It's because what I love is coming on for the short term. My mom calls me Mary Poppins. The idea that she brings me on for
That's a
short
great
term,
thing to be.
right? So I
Yeah.
love to come in just for a few weeks, build out the framework, kind of untangle whatever messes we find, and then I'm not the forever person. You might want to hire a virtual assistant, an online business manager, like a sub agent. Those kind of people are your long-term people. I really love the problem solving. That's why I like to do these short-term contracts and then move on. New client,
Mhm.
new puzzle, new mess to untangle. So, and that just really is, it really lights up that parts of my brain the same way education did. Was like, okay, if this is the goal, how do I reverse design it, right? How do we break it down? How do we
Mm,
make it actionable? For a lot of my time, I was the regular ed teacher in an inclusion classroom. So it wasn't
mhm.
just, hey, you learn my system. It was, what can I do to help you? How can we figure out how your brain works? And how can you best navigate this material? So that is something that I really enjoy and something I carry on with me into my work. And there are so many neurodivergent entrepreneurs. So they need somebody who's going to say, I understand you, and we're going to figure out something that works for you. It's not you buckling down and learning my system.
Yeah, and being in that place where, I mean, as a teacher, knowing like, hey, I've created curriculum or lessons for 30 different brains at like this lesson, 30 different brains. So being able to take that skill, I think it's so important just to recognize that what we might think, where we maybe pigeonhole ourselves into saying, well, this is what I do, whether you're a teacher or you are a lawyer or anything else, you've got skills. And so
Yes.
you took that ability to say, oh, I see what's going on here. This is what we're going for. Let me create a system for it.
Yeah. And so that's so fun for me. And I think that's something, you and I, when we were chatting, talked about, we see so many people say, well, all I know is education. What else? I'm not equipped for anything. And that's not true. Like, everything is learnable and skills are transferable. So much of
Mhm.
what you're already doing is so powerful and could be used in so many other things. You could be a great project manager. You could be a great virtual assistant or online business manager. You could help with, operations or supply chain. There's so many ways to use those same skills, that those teacher brain strengths that we think of, oh, well, that's easy. Oh, well, that's not a big deal. Or, oh, everyone can do that. And that's not always the case. Those really
Right.
are really marketable skills that can absolutely be used in a variety of ways.
Yeah, I used to be involved in this group on LinkedIn, and it was a group created specifically. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it was a group created specifically for teachers that were trying to decide whether to stay in the classroom or to leave the classroom. And it was
Oh,
a big support system of just teachers kind of support each other no matter what they decided. Obviously, I don't think you or I, either one of us, are saying, hey, guess what, teachers, jump ship, go for it. It's going to be
no.
amazing, because there is a lot that's going to happen inside your brain and inside your body when you decide
Oh,
that you're ready to explore something else. What was that like for you? Because I know what it was like for me. It's
yeah, it
hard.
was intense. And I'll be honest, it took me a few years before I even really did it. Like, I want to
Hmm.
say my personal journey, 2017, I now can say I realized that I wasn't happy, but I wasn't ready to say that out loud. And at the time, I just started saving money for a rainy day, whatever that would be. I now
Hmm.
know that that was, kind of building up some reserves for me
Yeah.
to step into entrepreneurship. And I don't necessarily think entrepreneurship is for everyone. Some
Right.
people might, be happier taking a corporate role or something else. But So I was saving money. I was, helping that friend, kind of building that. And then 2021 is when I made the big leap. And not only did I have to overcome my own personal anxiety, I'm not married. I don't have any kids. So luckily I was able to make that decision just truly on what was best for me without those other outside factors. But my friends, my family, everyone thought I'd lost my mind. That, but this is education and it's safe and you'll never have your summers off again. And, all the things, all that whole thing.
All the things that we knew when we started freaking out about thinking about leaving.
Right? As though I hadn't already thought every one of those thoughts.
Right.
And it was, what about insurance? And what about, it's going to be so scary. It's going to be so hard. What if you can't get client? All those things. And something, you and I had shared was that I had to kind of listen to myself and realize that's not my anxiety. Like those are questions and I kind of know the answers, but that's my mom's anxiety. That's my friend's anxiety. And they love me. It's coming from such a kind place.
Mm-hmm.
But to really listen and know those aren't my feelings. And especially for someone who's an educator, as we talked about, someone who's more empathetic, who does pick up other people's emotions, I would, and so I kind of hid. I wouldn't answer the phone because I was like, I can't do this right now.
Not today.
I can't talk them down off of this.
And that's really what we're doing, right? I think it's so powerful. I shared with Pamela yesterday that when you are a highly sensitive person, or when you are more, I don't want to even say empathetic, because my hope is that everyone can find empathy inside them. But if you are someone that tends to absorb other people's emotions like a sponge, that's not always we like to talk about having those boundaries around like our emotion. You can't fix it, but there is something to be said for people who do have that in their nervous system where they're like, oh my gosh, I just feel everything so intensely. So when you are talking to someone who loves you so much, who's like, but you know what? It's so secure. You don't want to be destitute, right? Like you're not gonna have any money. What if you don't have any time? And they care about you. They love you so much. And this is true whether you are leaving, again, not speaking just to teachers in this podcast by any means, but if you're a corporate lawyer and you're like, you know what, I really think I want to take this glass blowing business or whatever it is that you do that you love, and I want to make it a thing, there are going to be people in your life who have the best intentions for you, who are going to give you all of the negative feelings. I think it's so powerful that you were able to say, oh wait, those aren't my emotions, because sometimes for some people that's really hard.
It is hard. It was hard for me too, but at a certain point I had to learn that, because it would, I would be like, why am I so elevated? Why is this so intense right now?
Mm-hmm.
And it was the whatever barriers they'd bring up were all things I had already thought of or come to peace with or had a plan. And it was just learning to say, you know what, it's going to be okay. It'll be all right. Yeah. And even if it is scary, or even if it is uncertain, I'm choosing that uncertainty rather than feeling stuck. That they're both uncomfortable feelings.
Yeah.
But for me, the uncertainty is a preferable kind of discomfort versus the stuckness. So, and it doesn't make sense for anybody else, and it doesn't have to make sense. And that's something that was hard too, because I've always been the good girl who follows the checklists and does what everyone cheered me on, It was easy. It was logical. To do something risky, to do something illogical, to put myself into such an uncomfortable position was a huge mindset change and a lifestyle change. But I love it. And that's the good news, is now it's been about 4 years. And actually, my mom's apologized to me where she's like, it was, it's not that, because people, some of her friends were, more supportive than she was in some ways. But, she's like, I see it now. I was just scared because I knew that this wouldn't be easy. And I, never want you to be, in a tough spot. Right. But she's seeing that, like I said, I'd rather have that uncertainty than the stuckness. And so that has been huge.
Yeah. And for people who are listening to this that are in that place, you know what she's saying. That feeling inside of you that you're like, I have to get out. And there's part of you that's like, but that's a crazy thought, or, but it's safe. It'll never work. I'm so scared. That's just your brain trying to keep you exactly where you are. And that's what brains do. They don't like, brains do not like in certain blah, blah, blah. Brains, I'm going to not be able to talk today, apparently. Brains do not like uncertainty and they do not like change. So it makes sense that their brain is spinning out of control trying to protect you because you're the baby, right? Like
Yes.
you're still your mom's baby. And your brain's going to do the same thing sometimes. And it's really valuable, at least it was for me, to be able to say, I hear myself thinking this, any anxious thought that you have, but then ask yourself, whose voice is that?
Yes.
Because a lot of times, like for me, I was extremely close with my grandmothers, and in the sweetest ways, my grandmas would give me these messages because they loved me and they wanted me to feel happy and to feel secure. But that messaging did not hit. And I'm like, oh no, that's my grandma's voice. And so being able to separate that out is so huge. Kudos to you because
Oh,
it
oh.
feels real.
Thank you. Yes. And it took years. So,
Mm,
nothing,
mhm.
I didn't jump into any of this. So, and I think that's part of it too, is like it's okay to kind of build an exit strategy. For me, I was saving money kind of secretly, which is people don't tell that part. People love to say, I walked out the door and I built a six-figure business and I've never looked back. Like, and that's
Yep.
wonderful. But depending on your lifestyle, your circumstances, it might be a side hustle for a while. It might be
Mhm.
taking the time to save your money and, build. And so that's all good too. I think the problem is sometimes you hear those like overnight success stories. I just had $10 in a dream and in 1 month I changed my life.
Yeah.
That's not my experience. I feel like those
I
stories
don't
get
know
a lot of
anybody that
coverage.
that's their
Yeah.
actual experience.
Right. Right.
I'm like, no, that's not true.
Mhm.
It might feel like that, right? I think that it probably, we always have this gift of hindsight where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. It was like I left and then boom. But I'm like, yeah, but all of these things that you were doing, maybe even without realizing it. And so when you say exit strategy, sometimes that exit strategy even starts with just noticing that you're really discontent or
Yes.
like I'm angry or I'm sad or I'm crying into my lunch or taking naps in my car
Yes.
or I'm entertaining all of a sudden like I've never spent any time on LinkedIn or Indeed. I don't know why even know why I'm there. There's a reason you're there because subconsciously you're looking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think so too. I think that's it. Or having those conversations about
Yeah.
what would you do? Or if you went back to school, what would you study?
Oh, that's a
All of
big
that.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I think that I don't know, my first major in college was physical therapy. And I remember them saying, now, so I was at IU and they said, now we take about 22 out of 250 applicants. I'm like, oh, no, I'm not going to study that hard. I'm not going to do that. Like, that seems
yeah.
like a lot of math. At that point in my life, I was in like the worst phase of like my anxiety disorder ever. And I was like, 100% that's not happening. So I was like, what could I do? And I had always been good with kids. So it seemed like an obvious answer. But when I look back over all these things that I wanted, it makes so much sense why I am why I am where I am right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. I think it's always interesting. I'm not a regret person. I would don't, I'm grateful for my 15 years in the classroom. I'm so
Yeah.
happy to have helped and served those people. They have such a big part of my heart. But it's also okay for something to not be forever too. And I think
Mm,
or that you're not a failure. I mean, I guess I am a quitter because I did quit, but like that word has such a negative connotation.
yeah.
And I think it's okay to say, hey, I did that for 15 years, but now I'm in a new chapter instead of it being, oh,
Yeah.
it's too bad or it's a moral failing or it's,
Right.
I think we're allowed to live multiple lifetimes, try different things. And this new thing doesn't have to be forever either. It's,
Right.
something you and I discussed, right? Is very few people are going to end their career with 35 years of service and a gold watch.
Yep.
And it's okay.
Yeah. And for me, when I think about that, I'm like, but aren't they bored? Like, aren't you bored? And maybe that's, I don't know. Like, I just think that we're always growing, we're always adapting, we're always learning these new skills. So obviously, when you started your career in education, you didn't, maybe, I don't know, did you entertain the idea of starting a business? Did you always know that you were going to be great at organizing?
No, not at all. And I was terrified of entrepreneurship. I had worked at a local sandwich shop in the summers, and I remember hearing the it was a husband and wife, like the woman was like crying doing the books in the office. I remember thinking like, I never want to own a business. That sounds terrible to
Miserable.
me.
Right.
Um, but you just sort of listen to that inner knowing, and I think it's
Mhm.
okay to like what feels right, what feels like yes, and you just sort of follow those little breadcrumbs. And so no, I like I said, none of this was an intentional thing other than I'm just glad that
Mhm.
I did say yes and be open instead of saying, well, I can't, or I could never do that, or that's for other people, or I'm not brave, or I'm not an entrepreneur, all those, negative messages I could have listened to. So,
Mhm.
but
Yeah, and another thing that I know that I think it was you and I that spoke briefly about knowing a yes and knowing a no. Like
oh,
how
yeah.
to be able to say, like, how do I know? Because sometimes when you feel anxious, it's actually excitement and our brain just misinterprets it because those feelings are, it's the exact same emotion, it's the exact same chemical reaction, right? It's just what we're thinking about it, like, I'm so anxious for this party tonight, or oh my god, I'm so anxious about this party tonight. Whatever, it's the same thing, just decide what you
Yeah.
want to think. So when you started noticing that it was time to go and that you were going to make these changes, you just
Yeah.
decided to interpret it as, yeah, this is something to explore. So we talked about this, and I know that explain what that felt like for you.
Yeah, it's hard to explain it other than
Yeah.
for me, it is calm and it is what I call a full body yes.
Mhm.
And I've experienced a few of those in my life when I found the house that I bought. When I figured out this business, I just recently found a person I'm going to work with as a coach. And it's because I was
Yeah.
like, I looked at a million houses. I've met with 1,000 coaches. But when you find that right person, they say, when you know, it's just
Mhm.
like the calmness, the noise cuts out, and it's just like, that's a yes. That's a yes for me.
Yeah.
So for me, that's my experience. I don't know, everybody's going to be different, but for me, it is that full body yes. And that doesn't mean that there's not sometimes little questions in the back of your head,
Right.
but it just feels so certain.
Yeah. And that's really valuable. And I just knowing that and yeah, those questions are going to keep coming up because your brain will keep doing its thing. It's going to try and sabotage you every single way. But you get to choose what thoughts you want to keep and which ones you want to throw in the trash, right? So
Sure.
every time, if your body is saying yes, if your body's like, yes, this, I mean, and you're leaning into it, but your brain keeps saying, not so fast. You're probably going to be broke and have to live on the streets. Or, oh, did you want to go back and live with your parents in the basement? Or, you're going to fail. This is obviously a terrible idea. You're going to be embarrassed. This is going to be a nightmare. That's just your
Right.
brain talking. And if your body is screaming to move forward, you have to be willing to take that risk and live with that uncertainty because, like you said a few minutes ago, you're choosing your hard. Do you want to feel this resentment and cry in your lunch every day? Or do you want to be scared and build something that you love?
Yes, that's it. Is like everything is hard. You choose the
Yeah.
hard for sure.
Yeah.
And it is, yes, there's going to be the little doubts, the little questions, but it's amazing, when power through them or you say, nope, I can follow this. Yes, I know this is the right move. And it's okay. Even if it's not, I'll pivot. So if it is for some reason this business failed, fine, then I'll do something else. Like there is a whole world out there and that it doesn't have to be binary. It doesn't have to be success or failure, yes or no. So I think
Yeah.
that's a lesson I had to let myself live as well. Be like, well, I'll figure it out. I don't know, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah. I love this resilience that you have on the uncertainty thing. It's something that I think that so many people we do so often. We want to know, is this the right answer? I mean, I'm so guilty of this. I'll decide as soon as I know it's the right answer, but I'll entertain everything 100 times before I ever get there. But it sounds like that decisive action is not hard for you. Like when you know, you know.
It's yes, but it's
I
funny because
love
I
that.
wouldn't have thought that of myself, but there have been circumstances when I do it, and every time I do it, I'm so glad I did, which then fuels me the next time I feel
Mhm.
that full body yes. I'm like, here it is again. I love this feeling. This is it. Like I'm going to ride this wave because it has always served me well.
Yeah. And finding that evidence too, that I always call it like this Easter egg hunt. We're always playing an Easter egg hunt with ourselves, right? And we do it with Taylor Swift all the time. Like we're looking for her Easter eggs, right? But we have to look for
Absolutely.
our own too. Like, oh, she's going to release that Rep TV. But we're doing it in our own lives. And if this is what, if this sounds like something that you guys want, if you're like, no, I really, really want to make a change, or I'm terrified I'm going to have to make a change. If you're afraid you're going to be laid off or anything else, let's start collecting evidence of what you're good at, what's actually going well for you. How can we already see that you've got skills that you may not recognize in yourself? So, what have you learned about yourself since leaving and starting this business?
Oh gosh.
That's,
Um,
yeah.
I would say, what's fun is that I've built out skills. I think so in Brave Not Perfect, Reshma Saujani, I love that book. Everyone should read it, but
I'm
it's
gonna write that down.
specifically about how we have the messaging girls receive, and that girls don't try things unless they're pretty certain they're going to ace it right away. Like, like I'm not a math brain, so I don't do anything that's strong in math. So, right. But what it is that you actually can learn it, that everything is learnable, that you get
Yeah.
better. So like that's part of what's fun about entrepreneurship is not only, hey, I'm great at organizing chaos and that's what I do for people. But if you're going to be an entrepreneur, it's like, okay, you've also got to be the accountant and you've got to do the marketing and you've got to do the sales and the PR, and like all these other pieces. So
Mhm.
it's making me do stuff that I'm not good at. Oh, I'm not good at social media. Oh, I'm not good at those things, but it's not terrible. And I'm getting better
Right.
and I'm learning and I'm trying things. And you don't have to be perfect the first time out. And, and pretty much every day, one way or another, whether it's for a client or myself, I say, well, I've never done this before, but that's a fun, exciting challenge versus the kind of Groundhog Day feeling when I was feeling stuck, when I could tell you, oh, I ate lunch at 11:13. Oh, I'd be at chapter 9, French Revolution on October 10th. It was so
Right.
prescribed. I love
Yeah.
that uncertainty. But I also understand entrepreneurship and that level of uncertainty isn't for everyone.
Right. It is definitely not for everyone. And honestly, I think that it's an amazing thing. And I think we can all do it on some level. I mean, I guess technically, if you are having a garage sale, you're being an entrepreneur, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, little kids have lemonade stands and they're being entrepreneurs. So maybe on some level, but there is definitely you have to have some risk aversion. Like, you have to be willing to take risks. You have to be willing to do really hard things and be uncomfortable. And there is kind of a level of privilege there, right? Like I know the reason I'm able to do what I do is because I have a lot of people supporting me.
Yes.
So
I think so
do you,
too.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, go
I,
go.
I,
Go ahead.
I could see that too, that like the privilege of my household just being me. I didn't pull children off of the good health insurance. That would have been a different conversation. And I was able to save money for 5 years before I left.
Mhm.
That gave me, sort of a cushion that's maybe not something everybody else can do. So there's definitely that. Um, excuse me, I'm coming over a cold, so I apologize.
You're
Been a
good.
little froggy. Um, but I think not everyone you can still take the small steps and see things as you go. So it could be
Mhm.
saving money. It could be, like you said, getting on Indeed or on LinkedIn, just building a network. That's something you could do even if you're scared or you're uncertain or you're worried maybe that layoffs are coming. That's something you can do proactively that might help you feel a little more in control to remove some of that fear. And just liking and commenting and connecting with people, you're never going to regret that you did that, whether your career changes or not. So I think those little steps, making lists of what are your skills, the specifics of what you're doing. I rewrite, for insurance contract. Okay, well, on average, what's a typical day? Do you do 5 a day? Okay, so you're 100 rewrites a week. Like, that's a powerful statistic if you know how to shine the right light on it. Those kind of things. So I think that all those things can help you, and whether that's you kind of finding your interests and your strengths, or marketable skills or stuff if you need to put together a resume, it's all still good. So just gather that data to have in your back pocket.
I love that. You're organizing people right here. I love it. You're giving them the steps. Way to go, Teach.
I love it. I'm just boss.
Yeah. So how do people connect with you? And if so, let's say that we have someone listening who's like, no, I know that I want to change my career, whether it's I want to leave education or I want to leave something else, and I need help getting organized.
Yeah.
Can they reach out to you? Is that something you would do?
They certainly can. I will say I do know some great career reinvention coaches who are possibly even a better fit than me. But yes, I would love to talk to people. So, find me, Pamela King on LinkedIn is going to be the strongest. Pamela King Consulting on Instagram as well. I love connecting. I love talking, and anything I could do to help people. But yeah, there's amazing resources on there for transitioning teachers, people looking for new careers. There's a lot of resources. So step one is just get on LinkedIn or on your on Indeed.
Yeah, I have to admit, I've never looked on Indeed. I've never done that. So I will be sure to put all of your links and everything in the show notes, and to connect people with you on LinkedIn so that you can network out and they can network through us. So if you're connected with me on LinkedIn, if you are connected with Pamela, and we have crisscrossing, it's funny how many times I will click a random name and be like, oh, I can't believe I actually have a connection with this person. It's like that 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever that game was that I used to play. Where
just like
it
that
happens. Yeah, it really is.
And that's it. And that's how we found each other, was on LinkedIn. Like, it is, it is amazing. There are resources. There's so many warm people willing to share. And, sending love to all of you who are in those. I know exactly how tough those feelings are. Everything you want is on the other side of this fear. I could say that for certain.
100%. It's a great, terrifying, exciting place to be.
Absolutely.
It really is. And I hope that for whoever is listening, if you are feeling uncertain about what's happening in the future, whether you choose it or it's forced on you, there are a lot of really good stuff really on the other side of that fear. And I understand the fear is real. Let's learn how to calm that down. Let's learn how to manage your body so that you can think clearly, because if you are feeling anxious and stressed, your brain is just scrambled eggs. It's a mess. You don't want to deal with that kind of thinking. So we can learn how to do that. You can talk with Pamela about getting organized and about her steps and what she did and how she can help you wherever you are in your business. You can talk with me about managing stress, anxiety, overthinking. And there's so much support out there. And if you are looking for other coaches or other people, connect with us on LinkedIn and we will show you, hey, do you know this person? We'll make introductions for you.
Happily.
Yes.
Well,
yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time and getting to be in front of your audience. And like I said, I'm sending them all so much love and support. I know exactly how terrifying all of that can be.
Thank you for being with us. I just love this.
Hey there. Before you go, I just want to say thanks for hanging out with me on More Than Anxiety. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review so that other people can find it too. And if you're ready to quiet your mind, stop overthinking, and actually enjoy your life, there are 2 ways I can help. 1, I have a group called Ambitious Overthinkers Anonymous. It's my monthly coaching community where you'll get live coaching, real talk, and a super supportive crew who get it. And the second way is through one-on-one coaching. So if you're ready for a deep, personalized support to help you feel calm, confident, and in control, head over there. You can find both of these places in the show notes. Just click the link and let's talk.